So we just finished up Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. The next set of moves is very similar to a lot of the moves at the beginning of the first section. At the beginning of the first section, after we did ward off to the front, we turned, we did ward off to the side. From here in the first section, we're forming the ball, drawing it back, and we'll do the roll back. So forward, roll back left, forward, roll back right, forward, roll back left, and then we'll gather up the air, press, roll, separate, withdraw, and push. Drop, wipe, gather water, single whip. Okay? So we are going to repeat that whole bunch of moves with just a few changes. The biggest change is that instead of going facing the east and gather water facing the north and then single whip facing the west, we're going to be going corners. So we're going to start facing the southeast. So at the end of the first section, beginning of the second section, we did Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. Right now, we're facing the southeast. So we're still in a bow stance. This is my bow stance facing the east. If I turn it 45 degrees, this is my bow stance facing the southeast, okay? From here, we can imagine that we've just done ward off. We're actually in Return to Mountain, but if you imagine that we've just done ward off, then from Return to Mountain, we're going to form the ball, sink back, drawing the ball to the right. Ball springs forward as we shift the weight forward. Roll back, down and back. Except that we're only going to roll back once. So in the first section, we'd roll back a couple more times, but here we're just rolling back once. Now we're going to gather up air, and we're going to squeeze that air down. In the first section, we'd come up here to press. Instead, we're going to squeeze that air down to the hip, where the right hand is waiting at the hip, and then we're going to press from the hip to the southeast, okay? And then roll, separate, withdraw, root down and push, drop, wipe. Now I'm doing gather water facing the northeast, and then single whip facing the northwest. Okay? So you already know these moves. It's just doing it to a different direction with just a couple small changes. Let's go through it once or twice just to make sure. So, from Return to Mountain, left hand comes up underneath as if we're holding a ball. We're going to sink back, drawing the ball back to the right, shift the weight, ball springs forward. Roll back, just release, rolling the ball back past the left hip. Left hand gathers up air, squeeze the air together at the hip, not out here, at the hip, and then press from the hip to the corner or to the diagonal. Roll, pivoting the wrists, fingertips come together, hands separate, withdraw, rooting down, and push. Hands drop flat. And wipe, sinking back, turning. Right toe comes in. This is all the same. Gather water, facing, what is this? Northeast. And then stepping out, opening up to the northwest, right toe swings around, hip hitch, and press. Okay? So here you might notice I'm still in a bow stance. Okay, I'm still in a bow stance, I'm just facing this direction. So the right foot is going to be pointing straight to the north. The left foot is going to be pointing straight to the northwest. I'm facing the northwest, so in a bow stance, my front foot is always facing the direction, pointing in the direction I'm facing in, and the back foot is off to a 45-degree angle. Okay? So just like we were in a bow stance here, we're now in a bow stance here. You'll also notice If I do this on a line, you also may notice that my heels are lined up on an east-west axis, okay? So if I take this bow stance, I'm facing this direction, if I take this bow stance and turn it this way, my heels are on a 45-degree angle. Because I'm turning this bow stance 45 degrees, my heels end up on an east-west line, okay? Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to get the feel for the bow stance rather than thinking about what angle it is, so that you can recreate the bow stance whatever angle you're facing, okay? Just randomly creating bow stances and getting into a good bow stance no matter what angle you're facing. So you don't have to think about 45 degrees and heel and foot go here. It just automatically happens. All right, let's go through from different directions. So after return to mountain, forming the ball, drawing the ball back, ball springs forward. Roll back to the left. Press to hip. Press from hip. Roll. Separate. Withdraw. And push. Drop and wipe. Toe comes around. Gather water, facing the diagonal. Stepping out. Single whip. Boom. Heels on the east-west line. Okay? So that was as if I had started facing north. Now let's do it from the side. So from here, boom, 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 boom. All right? Form the ball, draw the ball back to the right. Ball springs forward. Roll back to the left. Left hand comes to the top, gathers up air and squeezes it down to the wrist. Press to the diagonal. Roll, separate, withdraw, rooting down, and push. Drop, wipe, gather water, facing the diagonal, single whip, facing the diagonal. Okay? Let's say I start end of the first section, embrace tiger, return to mountain. Form the ball, draw the ball back into the right, ball springs forward. Roll back to the left. Gathering up air, squeezing to the hip and press from the hip. Roll, separate, withdraw, rooting down and push. Drop, wipe. Gather water, facing the diagonal, single whip. Facing the diagonal. End of the first section. Embrace tiger. Return to mountain. Form the ball. Drop back into the right. Ball springs forward. Roll back to the left. Gathering up air. Squeeze it down to the wrist. Press from the hip to the diagonal. Roll. Separate. Withdraw. Rooting down and push. Drop and wipe. Gather water, facing the diagonal. Single whip. And press. Okay?